Hey y'all, it's JPP over here doing another live video. Hope y'all enjoy this one. It's not going to be a real long one. We're going to talk about the Qidi Plus 4 printer and some of my thoughts about it since I've had it for a while and been using it, and found out some stuff that I haven't seen anybody else talking about yet that's pretty important that I'm going to mention a little bit later. I'm going to let some folks join in. I see Rob C out there say he was looking forward to this one. I know there's a bunch of people that's been interested in the plus 4 and stuff. We got Nitro Cryptic out there. What's up, bro? And Kegel saying hey to everybody. And while I'm waiting for folks to chime in the chat, feel free if any of y'all have any specific questions about the plus 4 that you've been interested or curious about, feel free to drop it in the chat. And on that note, I'll go ahead and bring in the main character of today's show, the Qidi Plus 4. So how y'all doing this evening? And since the main reason why I decided to go live today is because the issue that came up is something that I think that folks need to know about pretty quickly, I'll go ahead and drop the banner on here, dropping what the PSA announcement is, and I'm going to leave that running the whole stream. And the main thing is, come to find out, the locking nuts on the bed leveling screws, how most enders and such have the knobs, the Qidi Plus 4 just uses a nut on the end of the bolt that you tighten instead of tighten a knob, and they have a lock nut that's supposed to hold it in place after you do all your adjustments. Come to find out, those lock nuts are just a regular nut. They don't have anything. There's not a spring washer. They don't have the nylon in it to hold tension on it. And after printing for a couple of months or so, they will loosen up and come off to the point that a buddy of mine that I've been working with setting up profiles and stuff had all 4 of his bed screw nuts come off in the printer while it was printing. And as soon as he gave me a call, I went and checked mine, and come to find out mine was loose as well, with one of them about to pop off on the front left corner. And I'm going to try and share the screen real quick and show y'all why I didn't know that anything was an issue. Bear with me just a minute. Excuse me. Kegel says red Loctite or whatever. You can't do that though, because you still have to be able to adjust them over time as things settle in and you print with it and whatever. You can't just lock them in place. But as y'all can see, this is my bed mesh with a variation of 0.19, which is pretty nice. And that was after I set it up, did the initial manual leveling on the first startup, and it's just been printing fine using the camp mesh system where it just does the bed mesh on the spot that you're about to be printing on each time, of course, which I know most of y'all are familiar with Clipper and stuff like that. But now and that is one other good thing that I will say with this issue, The printer was still printing just fine, had no clue that anything was up with the bed because the auto bed leveling was compensating on all the prints anyways. The only thing I would have to do is, depending on which material, I might have to adjust the offset a little bit to get a little more squish. But after finding out that that screw was loose, and I went ahead and did another mesh, and this is what the bed is now. So as you can see, it's quite a bit cattywampus. The difference went from a 0.19 variation to a nearly 2 millimeter variation. So that's why there's not going to be any printing on the +4 on tonight's stream, because we're going to go and re-level it tonight. Papaway said, did I lock it on the side? What do you mean by locking it? All I did was ran another mesh level as soon as I found out that the nut was loose, just to see what it was at. And while I'm waiting for folks to chat and Papa to get back, I'll go ahead and open up the door and tell y'all a little bit about it. I know some of y'all seen videos and stuff already that went in a little more in depth with prints and such, but it's got a tempered glass door on it, which is nice, and the hinges have some friction on it, so you don't. It's a little bit harder to just accidentally open it too much and shatter it and have an Uncle Jesse moment. The build volume is a 305 by 305 by 280 height. It comes with a tempered glass lid that just sits on it, and it has foam going all the way around the top to help it seal when you put the lid on. That's one thing. One thing I'm going to be printing for it is a new, or not a new, holder to hold the lid for when printing with PLA. It does have a filament cutter and what everybody affectionately calls a poop chute, because of the upcoming Qidi box multi-material system. And that is one print that I printed for it out of eSun ABS, or eSun ABS Plus. Is a bamboo style poop chute for it to catch all the purges. And as you can see, I've been printing a pretty good bit. I don't have it's all single colors, even though there's different colors. I've been printing with multiple different materials. I've done PLA, silk PLA, glow in the dark. I've done ASA. I've done the ABS Plus. I've done PET carbon fiber. I've done quite a bit of PET carbon fiber. I was reading what Papa Way said. Papa said from an Ender 3.2 millimeter don't seem so bad. I know I was really impressed with how level it was and flat when running and printing and all of that stuff. It does have dual Z screws. And with the recent update from the Qidi, the firmware update, it does have like Z-tilt compensation. When it first does its initial homing and stuff, it will do both screws and measure on both sides and kind of tilt it and level it that way before it actually goes and does its probing for the main leveling points for the mesh. It has it's not a hardened nozzle, but they call it a bimetal, so it can handle some of the abrasive stuff as well as your regular non-abrasive materials. But the big reason people want the Qidi or the Plus 4 is because of the high temp, the chamber heater, and the relatively large build volume, which is bigger than bamboos, to do stuff in nylons, carbon fiber, or glass filled, and the new Fibron, and other people do the same materials as well, the PET carbon fiber, PPS carbon fiber. And the chamber heater, they had issues and stuff when it first came out. It's not so much an issue now because they did actually address it and sent out a replacement SSR control board that is done the right way now. And if you was to buy a Plus 4 printer now, I would assume that it would already have that replacement SSR control board in it. However, if you pick one up off of Marketplace or something like that, be aware to check for that. The easiest way to tell is the new one, the coil or whatever it is on it looks, it's a toroidal coil, so it looks like a donut instead of like the square capacitor relay whatever looking thing from the original one. There is another issue that is not necessarily like the fire hazard potential that the bad relay was, is that the design of the chamber heater, which is in the side, see if I can get it where y'all can see. The chamber heater's in the side over here, and it has a fan as well, of course. But the way that the housing is done from Qidi is that if you're printing something that's rather tall, it will block off the intake or whatever, the openings for that because of the thickness of that bed sheet that you are not the bed sheet itself, but the actual bed platform. And there is a printable housing to address that changes where the opening, intake, exhaust, outtake, whatever for the chamber fan to fix that, and that's available on printables. I'll throw the link in the description after this goes back to a replay, of course. And I've printed up to, I think I went up to a 55 chamber temp, because I haven't done the PPS yet, and that 55 is all you need for ABS and stuff like that. And with the PET carbon fiber, it turns out that it doesn't really need a chamber heater. You can use a chamber heater, but it's negligible on whether it's any advantage for it. It'll work just fine without using the chamber heater. Excuse me, just have the chamber closed off. And another thing, not necessarily just the Plus 4 itself, but something to keep in mind for PET carbon fiber in general, printing it on other printers, because it doesn't require the super high hot end temperature, so it can be printed on other not quite lower end printers, but y'all get what I'm saying. But anyways, about the PET carbon fiber, if you are going to print with PET carbon fiber, make sure that you use some type of bed adhesive, whether it's hairspray, glue stick, nanopolymer, not because you want it to stick, but because it will stick too much if you don't use something to give it some kind of a help with the release. I ended up having that issue on the Plus 4 printing without using any type of adhesive, release agent, whatever, and you'll either have pieces that end up staying stuck to the print bed, purge lines, etc., or the other side of it, if you do end up like scraping on it and all that stuff, or get it to peel up, it'll end up peeling up pieces of the PEI coating. And I ended up having that happen on the +4 original stock bed. Thankfully they give you a double-sided, I'm pretty sure it's actually powder coated PEI and not adhesive, but I'm not completely sure on that. I'm not sponsored or anything, or a Qidi rep, whatever, but all that information is available on their website, of course. I'm trying to think of anything else off the top of my head. Feel free, like I said, if y'all have any questions or points or topics or aspects that you want to know more about it, feel free to drop them in the chat. And on the issue that I mentioned, what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to go ahead and this is a option to fix it. You can do it this way, or you can address it what other way you want to do it. Like Kegel mentioned, purple Loctite to be able to take on and off, or there's some other like not quite redneck but old school mechanic hacks and stuff. You could do something like wax or something, but I'm gonna get 4 nuts that are the actual nylon lock nuts that have the nylon center on it of those size threads, and put those on there so I don't have to worry about them coming to loose. And like I said, as far as I can tell, it doesn't affect the printing, because like I said, I was completely oblivious to it and been printing with it pretty much since I had it. The bed, the actual auto bed leveling compensation works pretty dang good on it, and it's using an induction probe. It's not like a Beacon Eddy cartographer scanning type probe, but it does use the inductive probe, having to have the metal bed. Shrimp Father out there, how's it going? And Papa Way mentioned something. I'd seen that too, that the Benchy is now open source. That is one thing I can show you that I printed on the +4. Most of the prints I can't show on here. Either one, they're projects I'm working on that are under NDAs with other companies and stuff, or they're things that are not able to show on YouTube. But I did the very, very first thing printed off of the +4. I had Polymaker's Luminous Rainbow, the glow in the dark, and I printed a Benchy. And it came out really good. There's no bulging or nothing on the front. All the holes are clean. The bridging in the main cabin part. The only thing is the very back, and this is one of the first ones I've printed. You can faintly see the letters on the back of the hole. I ain't printed one on any printer yet where you can clearly see those letters on the back of the hole. Just trying to see if there's any questions out in the chat. See y'all giving each other shout outs. Papa said, nice Benchy. Thanks. It looks good in the dark too, but I'm not going to shut the lights off to show you. It's been sitting in the box anyway, so it ain't been charging in the light very much. I know Rob mentioned wanting to see this video, but I ain't seen him in the chat. Like I said, anybody that has any particular questions they want to know, just let me know out in the chat. Shrimp Father said, what materials? Currently have PET carbon fiber hooked into it from Polymaker, which that's another thing. I'll do a quick tie-in on this video I'm working on. It ended up becoming an unintended long-term review video of the Polymaker Poly Dryer dry box because I was starting a video, got busy. Here it is more than a month later, and the PET carbon fiber that I put in the dry box or in the poly dryer to be ready for when the first 500 gram roll ran out. And I don't know if y'all can see, it's sitting at 11% now. That's just, today's the first time it went up 1% in over 38 days sitting sealed in the dry box. And that might not seem all that impressive for most of y'all that live in normal places, but here the ambient humidity stays 85 to 90%. Y'all can probably see on the counter over here. Well, I'll just use this phone and give y'all a little bit of a tour of the print room. Of course, you can see the +4. Beside that, we have the Qidi X+3, which I'm working on getting the nozzle changed and bed level calibrating all that stuff on it, get it going. But what I was going to say is all the dryers we got running, because like I said, if we don't use a dryer here within not even 48 hours, a roll of PLA sitting open air is going to be, if you pop it in a thing that has a hygrometer, it'll pull 47 to 50% humidity in less than 48 hours, just sucking out of the air. So for that Polymaker dry box to keep that sealed like that and holding at 10% for over a month with our humidity level is really impressive. And the fact that you can get multiple boxes, you can mix and match dryers with different boxes, keep them sealed in that. There's multiple printed upgrade mods you can do to do 2, 3. I've seen a dude that even had 4 stack dry boxes with one dryer. So I said that's one thing I did. I can't not recommend them highly enough. They're really a great dryer, and for the price, it's a lot better than, like, for example, I got the Creality one right there, the Space Pie, for less than the cost of that, and you can get a poly dryer with a poly box. Yeah, and you can grab a second poly box for $30. Now you can still dry 2 rolls a lot more efficiently than the Creality one. I see Keela and Jeremy out there. I'll give y'all a shout out. I see another question. Where'd it go? Shrimp Father says, what kind of speeds? I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one thing that I had forgot about that I was wanting to mention. With the Polymaker, the Fiberon PET carbon fiber, it will actually print at what is the stock slicer settings on the Qidi, which is I think over 200 millimeters a second, and it'll print looking good and all of that stuff, but it loses some of its strength printing it at that speed. I did a bunch of stuff messing with the calibrations and all of that stuff, and ended up setting up an Orca Slicer profile for the +4 Polymaker Fiberon PET carbon fiber with the flow rate adjusted and speeds adjusted. And on that one, it's printing under 100 millimeters a second, but that's for stuff like non-YouTube friendly, etc., things that you really need extra strength for, or which one of the projects I've got coming up that is going to be on this channel is I'm going to be printing motor mounts and gantry setup using the PPS carbon fiber for an all-wheel drive conversion on one of these enders over here that's going to be a Mercury-esque conversion. Kegel said the dryer itself isn't the greatest, but works. The box is worth every penny. Another thing, too, to keep in mind, if you do get a Polymaker dry box, you can set the time, all that stuff, how many hours, this and that, and all that stuff. If you do it and you're not thinking about when that time's going to end, and it happens to be ending in the middle of the night, you will be quite surprised when the beeper of that goes off, because it is quite loud, and it goes off, I believe, 5 times when it finishes, and it sounds all just about like the same pitch of beeping that a smoke alarm does. And back to what Shrimp Father was asking about the speeds. If anybody is interested, I can share that Qidi +4 Orca Slicer profile that I put together for the PETCF on Discord. Jeremy said, hit that like button. Yeah, I appreciate all the likes and the views and y'all hanging out in the chat and dropping questions and keeping the conversation going. Yes, that is another good point, Kegel, that once it finishes, you need to remember to take it off and put the plugs back in, or you defeat the point of it being sealed, because it's open to the air. The dryer isn't sealed because it needs to suck the air through to go through the heater and all of that stuff. But it's the seals on the plugs, the seals around the lid, all of that stuff that makes the boxes so good. But yeah, if nobody else has any particular questions about the Qidi, or the +4, I'm probably gonna end up closing this stream down here. Like I said, it wasn't gonna be a real long one tonight. I am gonna be doing more live streams later this week and coming up and stuff, trying to get it onto a more regular schedule. I just mainly was wanting to get this out there to bring the attention to folks, to let them know about the bed level lock nuts, because I haven't seen anyone else mentioning it. And Shrimpy says, that makes sense. I'm never in a rush for stuff. Yeah, I'd like a printer just for some higher temperature material. Started looking at the Qidi X1 at the same time they released the +4. Now, some folks might disagree with me, but I will kind of give you my particular tip on that. If you are wanting a printer to print mainly higher temperature materials like PET and the PPS carbon fiber, and nylons or PA, depending on the brand, they'll label it differently. The Qidi X Plus 3 over here, it has just barely smaller print volume than the Plus 4 does, but because it is a older generation printer, you can get them for a pretty decent deal. If you're not wanting to necessarily if you're not necessarily wanting the price and stuff that comes with the Q1 Pro or the Plus 4. I know there's some folks that was a little hesitant with it having the heater and issues, the fire hazard potential that it had when it first came out. But that's still, even all of that considered, I still, my go-to recommendation for people looking to get a printer, getting started in printing, that has any interest in printing nylons or any of the carbon fiber, the higher temp, like light grade engineering stuff, and even printing ABS, the Qidi Plus 4 is a great printer straight out the box. The issues that did come up with the heater, they did address them. They got it fixed, and not like some other companies when they released the printer and things happened and this and that, they beat around the bush, didn't want to acknowledge it and didn't want to address it until people basically kind of made them. Qidi, from my research before I even bought one, that was the reason why I tried to, or gave the Plus 4 a shot in the first place, is because I had seen their track record of having issues and actually addressing them. On some of their previous printers, they had things come up, like on the X Plus 3. I don't remember specifically the issues because I didn't have it back then, but it was like something about the bed or the Z motor or something. But anyways, regardless, it had issue A, and they actually did something about it, sent it out to people that had them and all of that kind of stuff. They did the same thing with the Plus 4 with the heater SSR issues, which, yes, it would have been better if they would have went ahead and actually tested or checked that beforehand instead of getting it in people's hands and houses with that issue. But like I said, that was when it first came out. They've took care of that. If you're looking to get one now, the ones that you would be buying now, or if you're watching this like a year or two down the road, it's gonna be completely safe with that heater and stuff there. And it ain't really even the heater, it's the control board. And what it was is it was set up for 220 volts. It didn't have the proper resistors or electrical stuff to handle American 120. So by having the volts, it was like doubling the amperage and stuff, and therefore that was causing all the extra heat on the board. And Kegel mentioned about the speeds and stuff with the PET carbon fiber. Yeah, those are the speeds I was talking about that it has set for the stock profile. I just didn't remember what the actual specific numbers was. And like I said, I can't speak for some of the other brands like Sharia Tech or Qidi themselves makes a PET carbon fiber, and some of the other engineering filament companies. But the Fibron specifically will print at those higher speeds, like things like fan ducts, stuff like that. It will work at them higher speeds. In fact, I actually printed the fan duct for Melissa's CR10 down here in PET carbon fiber, and the one that we printed more than doubled the cooling capacity of that, which it's still a much older printer, but it works. And like she always says, if it works, why take it apart to do something else when it can be printing now? Built Over Bot said, expecting them to make a good product is crazy talk. And Keela said, that's about how it always works, huh? Buy one, they release another. Same with all new technology. But yeah, I appreciate y'all coming out and showing support on the channel. I know I ain't been streaming a whole bunch, so those of y'all that are coming in on these first few streams does mean quite a lot to me. And I am working on getting a giveaway together probably in the next week or two. So 3, 4, 5, however many streams down the road, I will have a giveaway for those that stick with me and support in the chat and stuff. But coming up, I think in about an hour or so, Lee Marie 3D is going to be doing their Tuesday night stream. Make sure y'all check it out, and I'll be over there in the chat on that. And y'all have a good night.